Hey everybody, I'm new to YouTube and my name is Kenyetta for those of you guys who don't know. Right now I don't have very many viewers because I'm kind of new to this and I'm just trying to, I guess, work my way up or figure out like what suits me best, what I want to talk about. But I want to try to do my very first story time and I'm going to try to make it as short as possible. But basically, I moved into this apartment complex like 2 years ago. And before I was able to move, I had been going through a series of all kind of different stuff. Like I was dealing with this guy and he brought me all the way down. So it is true that when you dealing with somebody like you, they can bring you down because before I met him, I was in school, I was working, I had everything going for myself. I didn't have a driving record and all that. But when I met him, like everything changed. I can't really explain it, but I guess I started making bad decisions and he introduced me to a lot of things that were not good for me in the end. But we all are responsible for our own actions, so I can't just blame everything solely on him. But he brung me down. So anyway, I went from having my own place to being homeless. I had went to jail and just all kind of stupid stuff. But I was very young back then. I think I was like 18 and 19, and I was naive at the time. So I was staying with my mom and just moving from place to place, and I couldn't get on my feet, and it was so frustrating because I had kids that was looking up to me, and when I was young, I didn't envision like being a bad parent. Like I always wanted to be a good provider because I knew what kind of parents I had growing up. And I didn't want to be that kind of parent. Like I wanted to be a good parent to my kids. But when you have kids and you can't explain to them for sure where they're going to be laying their head at nighttime, like that's a very hurtful feeling. And I was going through that. So I was just trying to do everything in my power to get out of that predicament. So fast forward a whole lot. I finally got this apartment complex to approve me, and I worked a lot of overtime, and I came up with the money that I needed to move in, and blase blase, and I moved in. Now I'm the type of person that I go to work and I come home. I don't hang out. I got a few friends, but I don't trust very many people. And this story right here is going to explain to you why I don't trust very many people. So I'm living in my apartment. I'm chilling. I'm doing good. I'm staying out the way, trying to stay down till I come up, all that good stuff. And I keep a close eye on my kids. Like I don't let them go far without me knowing where they're going. I don't let them go, hang out on the block because kids are very easy to be influenced by the wrong thing. And if you don't keep an eye on them, anything will happen. So this lady moves like 3 apartments down from me. And I would see her and her kids hanging out every now and then. And like the few times I let my kids go outside, I guess they would like hook up with her kids. And I have twin boys and they're 11, and her son was like around the same age as my twin boys, and then she has a daughter and her daughter was around the same age as my daughter. So I guess since my kids didn't get to go out that often, like they took a liking to her kids. And so they will always be like, Mama, can such and such spend the night over here? Or can we spend the night over such and such? And I relented because I didn't want them to feel like I was so uptight, and I didn't want them to live life. Like you can't completely shelter your kids from everything that's going on in the world. So that's kind of like one of the reasons why I let my guard down. I let them like chill with the lady kids or whatever. So over a period of time, they became really close. Like my boys, they became close to her son, and my daughter became real best friends with her daughter, and she still is to this day. Cause kids, they don't know nothing about all that foolishness, honey. So I come home from work one day and I got an eviction notice on my door. So I read it and it's talking about how I have, I think they gave me 10 days to get out or whatever. So immediately I go up to the rent office to see what's going on and find out what the paper's talking about. Because mind you, I don't hang outside. I don't do drugs. I don't do none of that crazy stuff. I go to work every day. I pay all my bills on time. So what am I getting evicted for? So I go up there and I'm like, I got this eviction paper on my door and I'm trying to figure out like what's going on because I have no prior knowledge about this. And she's like, oh yeah, your kids, they broke into somebody's house and they were in there jumping on the bed and eating shrimp and doing this and that and the third. And I'm like, well, are you sure? Because this is my first time hearing about this and that don't even sound like something my kids would do. Like, that's a very serious charge, breaking and entering. They ain't nothing but 10. What you mean they was breaking and entering? What did they have? A crowbar? Did they bust the window out with a plank and jump in? Like, what's up? And she gonna tell, I said, ma'am, I've been living out here almost 2 years and I ain't never had not one problem. I said, I pay my bills on time and I don't bother anybody. I said, and I don't know what this paper's talking about, but I'm not going for it. And she was like, well, you just need to accept the fact that your kids broke the law and you gonna have to find you someplace else to live. So I left out the rent office and I was talking to several people about it because I was trying to figure out what I could do. So I done looked up the realty company that the management who's over the apartments and stuff, and I had called them and reached out to them and emailed them and all kind of stuff, and none of them was like hitting me back up to see what was going on. So I'm like, if she got all this evidence, like, why? I'm sorry, y'all. I was interrupted, but back to the story. I think I was at the part where I was trying to reach out to everybody and see what it was that I could do about the situation, and nobody was helping me. So I got an auntie who like stays up here in the area close by me, and she had came over my house one day and she was like, we finna go over that lady house, we finna go over that lady house. And I was like, no, I want to do that because now mind you, this is the same lady that my kids been hanging out with, and I've been letting her kids spend the night over my house and vice versa. This the same lady who done filed a report saying that some kids broke into her house. And when it came down to like the theft part, it said that some dollar popsicles was eaten or whatever the case may be. To make a long story short, when she called the police, they found a cell phone over her house. And she tried to act like she didn't know whose cell phone it was. But the cell phone was traced back to me. So they then made the guess or assumption that my kids was the one that had broken into her house because some of my property was found at the crime scene or whatever. I don't know. The shit was just crazy. But anyway, I ended up, I kept asking my kids, I was like, did y'all break into that lady house? I said, this is very serious. Like, we done been homeless before. I need to know the truth. I need to know what I'm fighting, what I'm up against. If y'all did it, y'all could tell me now. We could just bow out gracefully. But if y'all didn't do this, then I'm going to fight this because I've been living out here all this time with no problems. And we can't just afford to up and move. Like, we ain't got it like that. And I could not believe that this was the same lady who they had been chilling with so strong. And I had been giving this lady rides to the store. Like, she don't got no transportation. So some days I would see her at the bus stop trying to go somewhere. And I would be like, you need a ride? And I would take her just cause. Like, I didn't really have no strong affiliation with the lady. I just knew who she was. It's not like I hung out with her all the time. I knew who she was, and I didn't feel like she would harm my kids and nothing like that. And she only stayed 2 doors down from me. So that's why I let my kids hang out with her kids. But it was just stupid. So my aunt comes over here one day. We ended up going over her house and we asking her. I had my phone like secretly recording so I could get her ass on camera, like admitting to some shit. And then she tried to say like she didn't know, she don't know who broke into her house. She know it wasn't my kids and all this, that, and the third. Now I had did an investigation myself, and I had went around. I had asked my sons like, okay, who all was in the house, because they was in the lady's house, but her son had came to her apartment one day when she was up the street, and had a little freaking party without her knowledge, and then he lied to her about it. And so when she asked him, like, why my house looking like this, that, and the third, he's like, I don't know, mama. But the whole time, he done been in there behind her back, and he done let all these kids in. They done did all this, that, and the third. And I got onto my kids so bad about doing that. I said, don't you ever, ever, never, ever go into nobody's house and their parents ain't around. I said, do you see what could happen? Like, we almost lost our place to stay over this. And then you thinking that these people are your friends and they the main ones to throw you to the wolves. I don't know if the lady was jealous of me or if she low-key didn't like me or what the hell was her reason for trying to get me evicted, but it did not work, honey. It didn't work. It almost worked, and if I wouldn't have fought the situation, it would have worked, because it was a couple of people that lived out here that actually did get evicted, and the trail all led back to this lady. She was like close friends with the landlord, and she I guess she was telling the landlord stuff about them, and they was getting evicted, and they wasn't fighting the process, but I did. So come to find out, it was this other lady's kids who was over there, and they told me exactly what happened. And so I called the detective over the case, because I had went to the courthouse and got one of those witness statements or whatever. And it didn't name my kids or anything. So I'm like, how is they tying this back to me? That's when I found out that, like, my cell phone was found over there, and then they tied it back to me, which tied it back to my kids. But you can't automatically assume that my kids broke into her house. These kids used to come over here every day and play and spend the night. So what are you talking about? And I was trying to sue about this, because you can't wrongfully evict somebody. First of all, how you gonna give me 10 days? So I finally did contact the realtor, and then when when the lady called me, she gonna tell me that she strongly advised me to move and not try to fight it, because if I try to fight it and I lose, like, I won't be able to get no more certain kind of housing and this, that, and the third. Like, basically trying to scare me. And I said, well, you know what, ma'am, that's fine. I said, we're gonna have to take this to court. I said, because I don't know nobody who'll take a charge that they're not guilty of. I said, and I'm telling you that my kids did not do this. I said, I don't even know where this is coming from, because my kids used to hang out with this woman's kids almost every single day. I got pictures in my phone from when I took her kids along with my kids to get ice cream and all that. So if my kids was gonna break into her house, like, they don't need to break into her house. They get invited over there every day. And I looked up the definition of, like, breaking and entering, and it's like when you, like, forcefully enter the premises, like, with the intention of causing harm or damage, which they did neither. And when somebody invites somebody in, that's completely different than you breaking in. That means you gotta, like, break in, like, literally break in. So I had one of the other neighbors call the detective and tell the detective, like, her daughter's version of the story about how her son had let all these kids in. And the detective was like, oh, okay, because I had been in touch with him prior, and he wasn't trying to hear nothing that I was saying about the situation. He was just like, well, ma'am, there's nothing I can do about it. You ought to be lucky that they're not bringing up charges on your son, because this is very serious. And I'm like, what evidence do they have that my kids did this? Like, how you gonna bring up charges against somebody when you don't have no evidence? I always thought it was innocent until proven guilty, not guilty until proven innocent. So after my neighbor's daughter talked to the detective, he was like, I'm gonna call the lady and see what she got to say about it. So when he contacted her about it the next day, like, she changed up her whole story, and it seemed like she kind of special needs or something. Like, I don't really know what her deal is. I don't know, but I know ever since then I stayed far away from her and her kids, because anybody that can do something like that, like, you ain't right in the mind, and it's just crazy. So after he talked to Courtney and she changed her story, like, the landlord had called me and she was like, I'm sorry, we're gonna what's that word she said? Basically, she was just like, they're gonna forget all about it. And I had asked her to give me something to write and showing that they was gonna, like, forget all about the eviction that should have never been taking place in the first place. And she was like, oh, I can't give you anything, blah, blah, blah. She was just trying to cover her tracks, because she didn't want me to probably press charges or whatnot against her, because a lot of people go out because they don't know like they rights and stuff, and they don't try to do no investigation or no research, and they just listen to what other people say, and it be steering them in the wrong direction, honey. All I know is at the end of the day, I wasn't trying to go out like that, because I hadn't done nothing to nobody, and they weren't finna make me move for no reason. And then telling lies on my kids, talking about they broke. If they broke and entered into somewhere, then why y'all didn't lock them up? Why the police didn't never like call my phone and say, Miss such and such, we have a report that your sons did such and such, and it's up under investigation. Like, the date of the report was like 1 or 2 months prior to the date of the eviction. So how could this have happened so long ago and nobody was ever in contact with me about it? Y'all faking, like, seriously. But this just goes to show you, man, that you just can't trust people, because they sneaky, and they be plotting on you, and they be hating on you for no apparent reason. And that pretty much concludes this story. I know I probably was like up and down all around the place. I'm sorry for that. But if you like listening to me blah 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 and rant, thumbs up the video, comment, subscribe, whatever. Until next time, deuces.